Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another segment of Asaph Cafe. I am your host, Asaph Adonai, and we're on our Lawrence Welk set again. And on my immediate left, affectionately, our aging rocker, Emmett, and we're going to do another one-on-one, and I think we're going to have some delightful things to talk about today.
Yes.
We're going to talk about, this show, we're not going to get political, but I wanted to comment on the victory with Donald Trump. And talk about time travel and the show Time Tunnel.
Yeah.
And my possibly getting a job with ABC. So those are the three things I want to talk about on today's show here.
Well, first let's pray.
Right.
Heavenly Father, bless our show and our time together, and also heal my allergies, and we're doing this in Jesus' name.
And help me with the things, God, that I am dealing with. Amen.
Yeah. Just before we start, people, I do still have allergies. Worst year. It's not near as bad as last week where I had to cancel, but if you see me spit or if I cough, it's just that I have bad allergies, That's the only thing Hillary Clinton and I have in common, We've got bad allergies, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't falter for that, but beautiful, easy listening.
Yeah, I'm starting out with Night and Day.
But yeah, I didn't think we'd talk about Trump, but yeah, Trump won. Congratulations to Mr. Trump and his family.
I'll start talking a little bit when we finish this song.
The washing machine splashes in coffee.
Night and Day.
Washing machine screams about algebraic equations all day. It's fascinating. It's like night and day. Night and day. Spinning in the dryer. It's a very fascinating theorem for us today. Talk to the dancing washing machine.
Here's the conclusion.
And splash in all the coffee cups. It's fascinating. Like night and day.
There you go, Night and Day.
Yeah, every time there's easy listening under my home, often I sing those type of lyrics. Like, do you remember the ABBA song? I can't even remember what it was on. One of the ABBA songs was being played. I don't remember which it was. So I made up a song, about the spinning dryer, or something to an ABBA version they had on easy listening.
You're swinging safari.
Oh, yes. Herb Alpert, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh, sorry. Terrible.
Burt Kempfert.
Burt Kempfert, yeah.
Swinging Safari.
That's right, that's right.
And then it just has a little rhythmic stuff.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to that melody.
Sometimes I get Burt Kempfert and Herb Alpert confused,
Yeah, I guess I could see that. Burt Kempfert was a band director.
Right.
That had the trumpet solos, whereas Herb Alpert is the actual trumpet solo.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I said, I didn't want to get too political. That's not my intent, but I did want to congratulate Donald Trump for winning.
Yeah.
That's the biggest upset in political history.
I know.
And what's amazing to that is this is a man that has never been in the military, has never served any public office, and he ends up winning the presidency of the United States. That is absolutely amazing from that point of view. And I think he'll probably be qualified in some areas as far as his being a businessman and having traveled all around the world. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, whether you like him or dislike him or like Hillary or dislike her, the people have spoken.
They have.
And we live in a country where once the people have spoken, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason to be going on here protesting and smashing buildings.
It's terrible.
And picketing.
It's horrible.
That defeats the purpose.
It does.
The man won fair and square, and whether you like him or not, I think it's time. He's got a point. It's time to both parties start getting together and become
I agree.
nation, you know.
I agree completely.
Instead of being so busy fighting because you didn't win.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
You know, what's done is done.
Yeah.
It's time to give him a chance and see what happens, and you never know.
Yeah.
You know, like that Old Testament verse, for such a time
Yes.
as this. This might be one of those for such
I think
a
you're
time
right.
as this moment.
Yeah.
How do you know that a year from now some catastrophe might happen and Donald Trump might be the right person to fix it?
Right. Exactly.
You know? So those are just things to think about.
I agree completely.
It's like the story, what is it, in the Old Testament, the story of Esther?
Uh-huh.
Am I saying it right?
Yes.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Esther was a Jewish girl. Right?
Uh-huh.
Jewish girl. And there was the king and the queen, Queen Vashti.
Yes.
And the king wanted the queen to parade in front of a bunch of dignitaries and things like that. And she said no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to parade myself. And I don't think it was anything sexual necessarily.
Right.
She was just a good-looking woman, and the king wanted to show her off. She said no. And so that didn't sit well with the king, and it didn't sit well with some of the people that worked for the king. So they said, we better fix this problem because the queen said no. And if you let this lady get away with this, then all the other wives will be saying no to their husbands and stuff. You know, they were kind of a little show.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
So they oust Queen Vashti, and they set up a beauty pageant for the king. And so Esther was entered into this pageant, and she was raised by Mordecai. And Mordecai says, don't tell this king or don't tell anybody you're Jewish, right? So she gets into this beauty contest, so to speak, and she ends up winning. So she ends up being promoted to the queen. Eventually she becomes the queen.
Yep.
Now, getting back to for such a time as this is where I'm going with this story. For such a time as this, she becomes queen, right? Esther becomes queen. And then there's a guy named Haman
Yeah.
who gets promoted. He's working for the king, he gets promoted. And so everybody is bowing down to Haman, but Mordecai says, I'm not going to bow down to this guy. So because Mordecai didn't bow down to Haman, Haman gets ticked off and says, I'm not only going to kill Mordecai, I'm going to wipe out all his people. I'm going to wipe out the whole Jewish nation. So Haman sets up a plot to kill all the Jewish people. Not knowing that the queen is Jewish.
Yep.
So what the queen does, she sets up a banquet.
Oh yes.
And she tells the king, I want you and you and Haman to come to my banquet tomorrow, and then I'll tell you what I want, because the king has said, whatever you want, Esther, up to half my kingdom, I'll give it to you. So she sets up the banquet, right? And she's setting up Haman. So when the day comes for the banquet the next day, the king says, what do you want, Esther? And Esther says, I want you to save the life of my people, because there's somebody that set out a decree to kill all the Jewish people. And that didn't sit well with the king. The king's like, how dare somebody set up a decree to kill the Jewish people? Who is this guy that would do such a thing? And Esther says, it's your man Haman over here. Can you imagine Haman's emotions and feelings? And Haman had built the gallows that were 50 feet high to hang Mordecai on for not bowing down to him. And one of the king's men says, hey, there's the gallows over here that Haman had set up for Mordecai. Let's hang him on it. So they hung Haman on there, and it appeased the king, because the king was ticked that Haman would come up with such a plot. So where I'm going with this story, for such a time as this, Esther becomes queen for such a time as this, to save her people. See? Doesn't that make sense? Now, who's to say a year or two from now something might not happen on a worldwide plane that Donald Trump might be the right person to fix?
Exactly.
So, see, when he won this, and he's like this businessman that's never done any of those other things, how do we know that's not for such a time as this?
Exactly.
How do we know? So we'll have to let history take its course.
Yeah.
And I'm not pouncing on Hillary Clinton, because I like what Donald Trump said in his first little speech, his victory speech. And I think that was very cordial. I know that they were pouncing on one another in the
primary debates and primaries, yeah.
But he did thank her for her service, and you have to admit, whether you like her or not, she did, in her way, serve her country, being First Lady and Secretary of State. And I'm not going to get into the good and the bad or whatever. I'm just talking about the initial position. She did serve her country.
Yeah.
And Bill Clinton did serve his country by being the president. And I'm not going to get into all the morality issues. I'm just talking about, the contributions. It's like my show. When I do those musical notes on Scott Miller's show.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for 2 years, and I don't get into the personal lives,
right.
divorces, or smoking, or drugs, or whatever. I just strictly focus on the contributions.
Right.
I think that's why it works. So getting back to Hillary Clinton, she did accomplish a lot, And from that point of view, I liked how Donald Trump handled that.
Yeah.
And then I also liked when he said that we should be united now,
Yeah.
And because he won, you can see how divided this country is.
I know.
It's really divided. You got the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
And the divisions there with the authorities. And then you've got Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and who's vote for who. All division.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the United States of America.
Right.
And I think that's what Donald Trump wants to try to fix.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's time for people to just get behind him.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to say on that aspect of it.
Yeah. Wonder if Donald Trump likes easy listening. I wonder if, wouldn't it be great if he were on this show when we're just talking about easy listening and Star Trek?
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Well, here, let's say that, hey, Donald Trump, if you ever see this show, I'll probably send him a copy.
Yeah.
First of all, congratulations on your victory, whether people like you or not. You still won fair and square. I think that's fair. The name of this show is called Asaph Cafe, where I invite a guest every week, and they just talk to me as I play the piano. So if you ever see this and you want to come on this show, you're more than welcome.
Oh, man, you never know.
Donald Trump might come on this Asaph Cafe here.
That would just be incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I would be broken-hearted if I were sick and couldn't join that particular program. I would just be crying. I would just be sick and heart. That would be exciting.
Yeah. Song again. Easy listening.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know if I were president, I'd bring all my old easy listening albums and Gordon Lightfoot albums, and they'd all be played in the White House. Even, just looking out at the Rosa Garden, I'd be playing Gordon Lightfoot and Neil Diamond. That would be quite an interesting presidency if there was an presidency, and I was always bringing, my Gordon Lightfoot records into the Rose Garden and easy. That'd be exciting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. We played this song for Donald Trump the last time I remember.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Let's finish it. I'll do the whole thing.
Yeah, I'd be entertaining all my staffers and heads of state and everyone with my surreal washing machine jokes. That'd be interesting. Doubt there's ever been a president in history except for me, if I were president, that told washing machine jokes. That would be an amazing presidency.
Well, I wonder what the world leaders would think, even though I don't know.
Yeah. If I were meeting with the G8 and I said, well, it's been a very long day with a lot of important topics. I'm going to tell us a real joke to lighten the mood, and I'll tell them about the 2 washing machines. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
Oh, that would just be... Can you imagine me as president? I'd love it. You could be my vice president. Or maybe
I'd take you up on that,
Yeah. You could even be the president. Would you ever like to be the president one day?
No, not really.
Okay.
I'm not trying to dog on the office of the presidency, but that is the absolute last thing in the world I want to be as president of the country. Yeah. You know why? Not because the job is bad, but look what you have to go through to get there.
Yeah, that's true. You're right on that.
When I think of the days of the debates with Nixon and Kennedy, they weren't bashing their personal lives,
I know.
per se, like how current people who run for office.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't want to pick on Mark Rubio, but come on, with the small hands.
Oh,
too,
yeah.
I'm not going to go any further.
Yeah.
You know, that stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Mark Rubio's a fine politician. So I'm not trying to dog on him or pick on him, but I'm just using that as an illustration that all this bashing and attacking character and just talking about their mothers and
really.
What does that have to do with the economy?
Yeah.
So from that point of view, I don't think I would want to run for the office.
Well, that is a good point. I mean, I'm not trying to get political, but look what Donald Trump had to go through and the vicious attacks to get where he is. I probably would have folded and say, this isn't worth it. He has nerves of steel to go through. I mean, his head rolled. He went. It was unbelievable.
Well, Hillary went through her fair too. You know?
Oh yeah.
And so I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying that the whole concept of what people go through running for office, whether it's the presidency or governor or something, and I just from that point of view, I don't want to.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And the offices and the jobs, I'm sure, are fine jobs. But you know, if I were to be president, oh God, no.
Yeah. Well, have you ever noticed every president, when they come into office, their hair is usually whatever color it was, and then after 4 and 8 years, it's white because they're under so much stress. They get white hair or gray hair. It just is an exhausting job. Yeah.
Here's another song for you. Yeah.
It's so stressful, you know. Yeah, you have nice dinners and wonderful coffee and get to sleep in the White House, but it must be one stressful job. Even Obama's hair is now gray and white, you know. Because that's the stress.
You know this song?
Nope.
Let me play it. You don't recognize it?
Nope.
Shot in the Dark is the name of it.
Oh.
From the Pink Panther films, Peter Sellers.
Yeah, I never watched them. Oh, wow.
You don't know?
No, I never watched the Pink Panther movies. I saw the cartoon, you know, when I was a kid. I always watched the cartoon.
Here's the conclusion. I'll do an octave higher.
Yeah.
You still don't recognize it, huh? Alright, let me finish and see if you hear it. And here's the conclusion.
Nope.
Okay, yeah, well that was from, it was, Inspector Clouseau was the character that Peter Sellers, the actor, played. He was like this bumbling detective, similar to Columbo, but he could solve crime.
Yeah.
And it was just such a fun series, and that theme song is called Shot in the Dark. That was the theme to the Pink Panther movies.
Yeah.
Not the Pink Panther cartoon, but the movies. And speaking of the Pink Panther cartoon, that was a fun cartoon to watch.
Oh, yeah, it was.
It was.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in years. Yeah. Of course, I loved Rocking Bullwinkle, too. It wasn't on with the Pink Panther, was it? No, it wasn't. Or was it? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
No. For some reason, when we mentioned Pink Panther, for some reason I thought of Rocking Bullwinkle. I don't know why. But yeah, I always had my soda pop and my blanket, and I would wake up at Saturday, morning, and watch the Pink Panther and other cartoons,
Something like that. But anyway, the Pink Panther cartoon, that was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it was.
When I was a kid. And what I always liked about that cartoon was the music that they played.
Oh, yeah.
Because nobody hardly talked. In that
I noticed, yeah.
It was just action and music, and I thought that was always fun.
Yeah.
And gosh, they don't make cartoons like that.
I know.
Pink Panther and the movies. So if you ever get to see Peter Sellers in the movies, you should.
Interesting.
It was just a lot of fun. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about. I've been watching Time Tunnel lately.
Yes.
Let me play my version of that. See if you recognize it here. I came up with this version of Time Tunnel here. recognize it?
Yeah, you've played it, you know, but I've never really watched the Time Tunnel. I wish they had it on earlier on Saturday so I could watch it, you know.
And here's the conclusion. Something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to the Time Tunnel, like I was telling you about, you know, they go to different points of history every week. You know, real history.
Yeah.
And so they went back to Custer's last day. They went back like a few hours before the actual battle with Custer.
Yeah.
The two time travelers. And I found that interesting because one of the time travelers, the younger one, James Darren's character, was talking to the Indian chiefs and trying to set up the peace treaty. And the other time traveler was on with Custer. So the two time travelers were separated. But they were trying to set up the peace treaty with the Indians and Custer. And this actor that played Custer just would not behave himself. He kept, you know, he would mistreat the time traveler, not knowing who he really was. And he just disrespected his own men, and he didn't have any respect for the peace treaty or the Indian Nation people or anything. And he was just awful. He was just nasty, this Custer.
Yeah.
And he looked the actor that played him looked just like the Custer that history portrays him with the military uniform, the mustache, and all that stuff, the blue hat, the Confederate or whatever. And so the whole episode, they were just trying to set up the peace treaty, and nothing worked. And when Custer decided to attack, all the time travelers could do was just get out of the way, and they went up into this mountain, and they all they had to do was just watch the war.
Yeah.
Until the time tunnel was going to zap them into another period of history. And so, of course, the Indians attack. They wipe out Custer and all his whole army and everything after repeated attempts for a peace treaty that never happened. And then after the end of the war, when the Indians left and they wiped out all the, you know, the soldiers and stuff, the two time travelers are looking over Custer's body, and they're just standing like this, shaking their heads like, we tried. You know, just fun things like that. Just, you know, all these different periods of time that the two time travelers go through. And I told you about when they went to the Titanic, a few hours before the Titanic. That was interesting, that episode. Because the time traveler was trying to tell the captain, please, captain, just turn this ship just a few degrees. That's all you have to do. And the captain didn't believe it. He just thought that the time traveler was a stowaway, not knowing that they were really time travelers. And so they locked up the two time travelers for a while. And you know what made the captain believe that he knew what he was talking about? Right when the ship hit the iceberg, the time traveler tells the captain, look, you only have 70 lifeboats on this ship. You're not going to be able to save everybody. And nobody on that flight, nobody on the cruise knew that. The only one that knew that there were 70 ships was the captain and the handful of people that worked with the captain. The captain says, how could you know that? And the time traveler says, because I tried to tell you we're from your future. And they pulled out this newspaper from the future that says, and read this, captain. It says the Titanic had sank like over 100 years ago, and the captain was reading this, right? And so then the captain started believing that these guys were from the future. So the captain says, I got to ask you one thing. Am I going to die tonight? And the time traveler says, I'm afraid you are, captain. And so the captain says, okay, if I'm going to die, I'm going to try to save as many people as I can. So the captain goes and leaves. He goes out there on that deck, and he starts like lowering those life rafts and just tries to save as many people as he could. And of course, when the ship is about to go down, the two time travelers get yanked into the time tunnel again, and they go to another period of history.
You know, but
see, it's just interesting
that's very interesting.
That they just go to different points of history, and even if they try to fix it or change it, they can't, because history's already been done.
Oh, because if I were the captain of the Titanic, I would have just steered the ship onto another course.
That's what the two time travelers tried to tell the captain to do, but see, the captain thought they were just troublemakers and stowaways and stuff like that. But it's science fiction, yeah, I understand that, but it's just such a fun show watching Time Tunnel. And yeah, I know they have other shows that deal with time travel and stuff that are more fancier than this Irwin Allen version. But I think this Irwin Allen version it may not be fancy as far as the techniques and the tricks, but the plot lines I think are really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Really good. So they've been going to different points of time, and it's just fun to watch. And of course, all the other Irwin Allen shows, Lost in Space.
Oh yeah.
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and of course Land of the Giants. I've been watching that lately. You know, I used to watch Land of the Giants when I was a little boy.
Yeah,
and that
cool.
has not been on television after all these years. Now I'm almost 60 years old, and they're finally showing Land of the Giants.
Yeah.
So I taped that pilot.
Yeah.
I just really taped it. I had fun.
Is there any way you could get me a copy? Is there a way you could duplicate a copy from me?
Yeah, I can make you.
Because
a copy.
the thing is, my VCR doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, it plays, but and of course, I'm not up at that time to record. You know, if I had a VCR that worked and I had a timer recording like it used to, you know, I don't want to transfer from DVR. I don't have a DVR.
No. I'll just make you a VHS copy. I mean,
really
that
cool.
show is like 50-something years old.
No, that's really cool.
It's like public domain. I don't think there's any copyright issues at this point.
No.
In fact, the people that were on Land of the Giants are like all like in their 80s now anyway. So, and that's a show that's pretty much forgotten.
I know.
Land
It was excellent. It was an excellent show. I remember it. I just saw it for 2 weeks.
It has something like this. We'll see.
Yep. I was in Seattle because a relative, that I was living with my stepdad had an operation, so it was on in the afternoon, So I started watching Land of the Giants just to see what was on science fiction wise, and got hooked.
Something like. Something like that.
Yep. Yep.
Something like that. I just made that up, that little version.
Cool. I even saw it in Seattle, a Japanese cartoon called Star Blazers. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
I never
It had
remember
a bunch of space battles, and there was this ship called the Yamato, and they were fighting, aliens in outer space. It was animated. It was really cool. I don't remember the theme song, but I enjoyed Star Blazers too, So that was cool, yeah. Oh, do you want any of the secret ingredient or not, or just the coffee?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Ultraman.
Oh, yeah.
Ultraman. Yeah, I'll take some of that secret ingredient.
Yep.
So, Emmett, I'm glad you're feeling better. See, 30 minutes have already gone by. Time just flies,
Yes, it does.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of jobs, getting back to Wake Up Missoula, I wanted to personally thank Scott Ranf and Noelle McAvoy, especially Noelle, because it was her creation and her idea, Musical Notes, about 2 years ago. She said, you've been playing. I had been playing on the show for 6 months prior, something like that. And all I did was played softly for the entire program. I didn't do any stories at that time. And Noelle came up with the idea to do a segment called Musical Notes with Asaph. And all I get to do is just tell a story of a musician or something. And I think you've seen some of those that I've done.
Yeah.
And then it evolved from musicians to actors and television shows and movies and what have you. And so I decided I wanted to do something different. Instead of doing reporting, instead of reporting stories of all the personal stuff and the mudslinging,
Yeah.
I decided I just wanted to focus strictly on the accomplishments of these people and their contributions. And that's it. And I think that's why that works.
Yeah.
Because when you watch Entertainment Tonight and all the other shows, I'm not trying to dog on them. They always pounce on horses and tickets and drunk drive, and I just don't want to do that type of journalism.
Yeah. I never watch Entertainment Tonight anyway. What channel is that on?
I think it's on NBC, but
didn't know that.
I'm just saying, if that's fine if that's what they want to do, or paparazzi or whatever. But I don't want to. I just wanted to make a fun presentation of a person as far as like if they've got Academy Awards or what they've done, and that's the way I've kept that format all these years. And it's winding down because I'm quitting the show on the 18th. It's time. Noelle is leaving, and when she made the decision to leave, then I knew that was time for me to leave. And I think Scott will take the show in another direction, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I've done hundreds of stories. I must have done about 300-400 stories already in the 2 years. And I just did my top 10 for 2016. My top 10 musical notes with Asaph stories. And some of my, you know what made my top 10? The Gong Show made my top 10.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, I did the story on Gene the Dancing Machine.
Wonderful.
I don't have it memorized, so I'm just going to pick a few. So that was one of my top 10 for 2016, the Gong Show, Chuck Harris. And I was thinking about you when I did that,
Oh, thanks.
too. And let's see, what were some of the others that made my top 10? Diana Rigg, the actress that played on The Avengers. She played Emma Pill. And I think it went something like this.
Never watched The Avengers, huh? Wasn't that a comic book thing, The Avengers? I did not know they had a TV show, The Avengers.
Yeah, they did. The 60s. And the theme song went like something like this.
Amazing. I did not know that. I wish I'd known. That'd be cool to see. A little bit of that. Interesting.
Something like that. Something like this. Something like this.
I forgot. What was I've never read an Avengers comic. What was the Avengers? Do you know?
Well, I don't know about the comic version because I'm not familiar with the comic version, but there was a television series called The Avengers in the 60s with Patrick McNee, I think was his name. He played a character called John Steele, and he was like this smooth-talking detective kind of character. And Emma Pill was the one who did all the martial arts, judo kind of. She was kind of like the Bruce Lee of the pair.
Yeah.
Mrs. Emma Pill. And they just kind of, it was sort of like I don't want to say parody of James Bond, but it was kind of in that genre, I would say.
Oh, so it wasn't about superheroes. It wasn't the Avengers superheroes.
No, the Avengers was more like
I get it, different.
It was like a British detective spy kind of show, if I had to describe it.
Yeah, because I know in the comic books, I think they're like superheroes
they had
or something.
the Avengers. I'm not talking about the comic.
Oh, okay.
The James Bondish kind of British version.
Interesting.
If I had to describe it. And it was a fun series to watch.
Huh, interesting.
So anyway, that made my top 10, The Avengers. Well, actually, I didn't focus on the show. I focused on the actress, Diana Rigg, that played Mrs. Emma Pill. And then Ken Berry made my top 10. Ken Berry is one of the best dancers in Hollywood, but you wouldn't know it because of some of the characters he plays. Like he plays on a show called F Troop. I don't know if you remember that show. And Ken Berry's character plays this colonel or whatever, who's really a buffoon, bumbling kind of character. And he also played on Mama's Family. It went something like this. Song? Nope. Well, okay. Well, anyway, Mama's Family, Vicki Lawrence is the actress that plays Mama, and it was just kind of like a sort of a mild dysfunctional family that loved each other, and they always got into situations, and it was just kind of a fun show. But one of his more serious roles that Ken Berry played, he played a show called Mayberry RFD, which was a spinoff of the Andy Griffith Show, and this was a show where he had a son that was white, who adopted an Asian boy and an African-American boy. And I think that ABC was not quite ready for that kind of comedy or sitcom at that time.
Yeah.
Whereas today it would be more acceptable. But that's some of the shows that Ken Berry did. But he's best known for his dancing. He's a very skilled, accomplished dancer that, one of the best. If you ever get to see him, Ken Berry, he's one of the best dancers in Hollywood in the past.
Huh.
Really, he was very skilled. And so he made my top 10. And of course, my #1 story for 2016, Barbara Bain, the actress on Space 1999.
Oh, yes.
She also, when she was younger, was on Mission Impossible with Peter Graves, and she was just a perfect spy. Cinnamon Carter was the character she played. So that just gives you an idea. And I submitted my top 10 musical notes stories to ABC last week. And they contacted me, and I'm gonna wait and see if maybe ABC will consider letting me do musical notes with
Oh,
ASAP
wonderful,
on
yeah.
one of their networks, one of their ABC channels. So
Yeah.
I've got some prayers going up to heaven about that.
Yeah.
So maybe the good Lord will open the doors. And,
And
what I'll do is I'm not gonna change the format. I'm just gonna tell the story. I'll just do it on a different network. That's all. It's the only difference. And I'll still be doing Asaph Cafe here. And their headquarters is in Great Falls, I believe, but they transferred my info statewide.
Oh, wonderful.
You know, and they sent the links. I sent them 10 links, my top 10. So you can see the actual full story. And maybe ABC will give me an opportunity. And that'll be a godsend too.
Yeah, it would be.
But I'm not saying that my stories are the best. I'm just saying that I think what makes it work is that I just focus strictly on the account.
Right.
That's it. And my story that I did just yesterday, I did a story on Liberace's mother, his mom. Because you always hear about Liberace all the time. The diamonds, the furs, but you never think of his mother.
Yeah.
So I looked her up, and I was able to put a story together about her. It turns out that her name was Frances Liberace was her name. She married a guy named Salvatore Liberace, and that's how the whole thing started. They got married in 1910. She married in 1910. She was born in 1891, Frances Liberace. And, of course, her last name wasn't Liberace then.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce her Polish last name, but when she married Salvatore, she became Frances Liberace. She bore him 4 children. George you might find this interesting. George Valentino Liberace, that was his full name. And then there was, Angelina Liberace was the second one born. Then there was Walazzo Valentino Liberace, which you know him as Liberace.
Yeah.
And then they had another brother named Rudy Liberace. Rudy Louis Liberace. Now you notice all the Liberace names have Valentino in there. Did you notice that?
No, I did not know that. Huh, interesting, yeah.
Well, the reason that they all had Valentino in their name is because Liberace's mom was a big fan of the silent film star Rudolph Valentino.
Oh, yes.
The film star. That's putting on the Ritz.
Yeah, yeah.
Rudolph Valentino seems to be connected with that song. But anyway, Mrs. Liberace, she put Valentino in the name of all her children because she was a big fan of Rudolph Valentino, the silent film star, like Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
And so when Liberace, as we know, the pianist, his full name was Walazzo Valentino Liberace. What he did was he took the Walazzo and the Valentino off of his name, and that's how he became known to the world as Liberace. And I find that interesting, see?
Yeah.
So, that's a story that, I tell those kind of stories. You notice there's no mudslinging?
Yeah.
And it's just fact. These facts are based on Wikipedia and the IMBD, bio page and other bio pages, and I just create these little stories based on little tidbits that I grab. So so that's why I talked about Frances Liberace just yesterday, and my point is, it's been so much fun doing these stories, and I hope ABC will give me the opportunity to do it on their network. That's all. I can take some of my past stories and introduce them to ABC along with more current ones, because I've got 2 years worth of stories already done. Stuff like that. So, well, I'm glad your allergy seems to be clearing up some.
Yeah, thanks for the prayer. The prayer really helps. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, prayers. I don't take any credit for it, but prayer is powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of prayers, if you think of some prayers, you can, in your spare time, ask the good Lord to open that door with ABC.
I will. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm hoping that door will actually open so that I can introduce this segment musical notes with Asaph and just tell the stories of people. Fun, delightful stories about their contributions and accomplishments. You know who else made my top 10?
Who?
Barbara Billingsley. She's the actress on Leave It to Beaver. She played Mrs. June Cleaver on Leave It to Beaver, the old black and white. And you know, she played such a prim and proper mom on the series. That's why it was funny when she was in the movie Airplane. She was playing a totally different character.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw Airplane.
I loved it.
Remember that scene with those two African American fellas? They were eating that fish, and one of them got sick.
Oh yeah.
And he was trying to communicate with the stewardess, and the stewardess couldn't understand him because he was speaking jive.
Yeah.
And so Barbara Billingsley's character gets up and says, "Excuse me, stewardess, I speak jive." And she was saying something like, "We're gonna get you on the bedside, blood," that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it was so funny just watching this actress who's known for playing a prim and proper mom speaking jive. My mama don't raise no dummy.
Yeah, I just love it. Yeah.
Cut me some slack, Jack.
I just loved that.
It was so funny. So.
It was, yeah. Now just hang loose, Bloods. We'll go back for the meta side on the rebound. I mean, that was hilarious.
But see, my point is that was Barbara Billingsley, the actress, and so she made my top 10. And I showed some still pictures of that scene in the movie.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
In my story.
When I first saw that, I thought I was going to die laughing. I had tears coming down my because I just did so many funny things. I thought I was going to die laughing. That is, if you've never seen Airplane and you're in the mood for comedy, you'll die laughing. And I loved Airplane 2 as well.
I didn't like it as well as the first one.
Oh
they were both funny. Yeah, that Airplane. Oh my goodness, that was so funny. And in that scene when was it Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the pilot? And they were giving that little boy the tour in the cockpit.
Yeah.
And the little boy says, "You're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, aren't you?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, I'm not. I'm Roger."
Yeah.
"No, you're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar."
Oh, that was the one.
And then the little boy's like, "My dad thinks you don't work hard enough. He thinks you're weak on your defense." And while that little boy was egging him on, and while Kareem was flying his plane, he's getting ticked off at that little kid. And it was just so funny.
Yeah, it worked.
Because you and I both know Kareem's like the greatest basketball player in history, you know. And so they had this little kid say, "My dad thinks this," and he grabbed and then he grabs the boy, "You tell your father such and such and such," and you know. It was just funny.
It was.
And another scene that was funny. You know, remember that little girl? She was something like 9 years old. The stewardess walks up to her and says, "Little girl, would you like a cup of coffee?"
Yeah.
And the little girl says, "Yes, ma'am." So the stewardess says, "How would you like your coffee?" She says, "Black like my men."
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I wasn't expecting to say something like that. So, I mean, she's a little white girl, like she like black coffee like her men. It was just so funny. Yeah. I wasn't offended by that. No. I just thought that was so amusing. Yeah. But like you know, when I first saw that film, I thought my sides were hurting.
Same here.
So much. Watch our time, you know.
And there was nothing politically correct about that movie. That's what
that movie was just funny. Just straight up funny.
Funny, yeah.
And
oh man.
But yeah, I've got that movie at home too.
Oh, wonderful.
So
you didn't like Airplane 2 too much?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it was quite as funny.
No, it wasn't. No, it's very hard, you know, to make a sequel as funny, but I thought it was still very funny.
No, I agree with you. It was. You know. So.
I think one of my favorite scenes in that movie was something I could relate to, and when I first saw that, because I was watching Siskel and Ebert, and they were showing some clips, and I about died laughing because I could relate to that. Do you remember when they were about slightly off course, and the stewardess was saying this, and someone stood up and asked, "Are you really telling us everything?" And she said, "No, we're all also out of coffee." And then the whole place erupted in a riot, and we don't have anything to worry about. And I would have erupted in a riot too if I had no coffee, because I love coffee. I could relate to that.
Yeah, I'm drinking a frappuccino right now, they call it.
I mean, if we were out of coffee on a plane, I'd be on a long voyage, I'd be freaking out too, you know? Yeah. That was hilarious, and then I about died laughing.
Yeah, so it's just, they don't make movies like that.
They don't.
But I think a lot of those actors that were in that film are probably all retired now.
Yeah.
That movie's what, about 30 years old or more, at least? It came out in the 70s, I believe.
You mean
Airport.
Airplane came out in
Airplane, not Airport. Airplane. That's it.
Airplane came out around 1980, and I'm thinking Airplane 2 came out around 1983 or 84. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I'm watching our time because we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
It went by so quick. Yeah, but no, yeah, that Airplane, that was such a funny movie.
Yeah.
And of course, the pilot gets the girl at the end. You know, he was on the verge of losing his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't get past his past.
Yeah.
You know, the war issues and his fears and stuff. He finally conquered his fears and stuff like that. But the stuff going on in that film when they were on that flight, it
definitely.
Yeah, it was just so funny.
Yeah. It was a parody on disaster movies. That's
I realized that.
Made it funny, you know.
Yeah, and they did a good job.
They did an excellent job, yeah.
And the fact that nobody dies in that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was good. So. But yeah, Airplane 2, that was good too.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I think if they could have figured out some way to do a totally different plot line instead of making it like number 1, maybe it would have worked.
Well, I don't know. How could you, if it was Airplane 2 rather than Airplane whatever?
Maybe a different situation or different.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, who knows?
But you know, it is what it is. You know.
Yeah, I like it
the way they did it.
And they did it different because it was a space shuttle, you know.
Yeah. And I like it.
That worked. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm getting back to Time Tunnel when it comes on again Saturday. I'm curious where the Time Tunnel is going to send the 2 time travelers. What period of history? Because at the end of the show, they don't tell you. You just got to wait a week. Because see, at the end of the show, whatever clothes that the time travelers are wearing for that time period, when the Time Tunnel is going to take them somewhere else, their original clothes that they had on appears on them instantly, and then they disappear back into the time tunnel, and then that's when the show goes off. So you don't know where the time tunnel is going to take them for the next episode. And the reason that their original clothes appears on them is because that was the clothes they were wearing when they first entered into the time tunnel. So whatever period of time they go in, they can't wear their clothes from the future because it won't work.
Yeah.
So they change, but when the time tunnel is going to take them somewhere else, then their original clothes automatically appears on them. Stuff like that.
Maybe next week they'll go back to meet the person who invented the washing machine.
I don't know.
You know, that would be a good thing to talk about. That would have been a good thing for a top 10 or something to talk about, maybe on ABC. I would like to know who invented the washing machine. That'd be fascinating, or the dryer.
Well, speaking of washing machine, you remember the actor that did the Maytag wash?
Yes.
I was considering doing a story on him at one time, but I couldn't get enough information on him.
I
saw some pictures of him with the Maytag.
Yeah.
You know, he did that commercial.
You mean he was so lonely because the Maytag repairman, nobody needed him to repair
anything. The Maytag machines worked so well that you know, he was just lonely. His name was Jesse White. He was the actor, and he had done a lot of movies like the Andy Griffith Show and, you know, stuff like that. Oh, it's almost time for me to play at the mall, you know.
Oh, yes. You have your Christmas tie on, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Cool, yeah. When will you start playing at the mall?
About 2 weeks from now.
Isn't that a little early? I mean, it won't even be Thanksgiving, or will it?
I don't know.
I know Thanksgiving is coming up, the Christmas season, but that's amazing, yeah.
Well, I've already been playing for the last 3 weeks already. Not at the mall.
Oh, cool.
But at the Patty Creek store.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started that like before Halloween, so. But that it covers the entire, you know, holiday season, Thanksgiving. Yep. And you know, speaking of stories, I did a story on Thanksgiving about a year ago. The comparison of being thankful, and I used that clip of the Charlie Brown cartoon at the time when Peppermint Patty. She invited herself over to Charlie Brown's house, and Charlie Brown tried to tell her that he wasn't even going to be home.
Yeah.
Because Charlie Brown was going to his grandmother's house with his family. So what he and Snoopy do and Linus, they make popcorn, they have pretzel sticks.
I know.
And, you know, they just put on a plate with toast. And so when Peppermint Patty and Marcy comes over, they're sitting out in the backyard, and so Charlie Brown serves them all this toast and stuff. And so then she's looking at it. What blockhead cooked all this stuff? What is this, Chuck? Toast? Pretzel stick? Where's the turkey, Chuck? Where's the dressing and the gravy, Chuck? Don't you know anything about Thanksgiving? And see, I use that as an analogy that's not the way to be thankful.
Exactly.
So, but it was still funny to me when
it was, yes.
The way she goes off. And so Marcy says, well, did Charlie Brown actually invite you, sir, or did you invite yourself? Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
She invited herself. But it had a happy ending because...
It did, yeah.
Charlie Brown's parents decided to take Charlie Brown's friends along, so they all wound up going over to grandmother's house for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But I did a story on Thanksgiving about being thankful.
Oh, definitely.
I used that clip because we were able to use video clips at that time.
Yeah.
So when I did my top 10, I had all the, the stories with the video clips to make it more interesting, especially presenting it to ABC. So you never know. Maybe they'll hire me to tell the stories. I'd be very humbled if they did. But yeah, Charlie Brown, those cartoons are fun. All the Charlie Brown cartoons, and of course the Christmas one is the best one. It stood the test of time. And I like how they put the biblical account.
Oh, that was wonderful.
I was looking at some documentaries on Charles Schultz, the creator of Peanuts. He's the one that decided to put the biblical account in his cartoon instead of that Frosty and Rudolph. Not to have anything against that. And he had to defend that. He got so much heat from advisors and stuff. Oh, you can't put that biblical account in there. The networks won't accept that. The public won't accept that kind of thing. They wanted him to talk about, the meaning of Christmas is Santa Claus and getting together. Yeah. No. He put Luke chapter 2.
That's wonderful.
The King James, and when Linus got on that stage, because it says Charlie Brown was frustrated, because he didn't know what the meaning of Christmas was. Is there anybody who knows what Christmas is really about? And Linus says, I can tell you, Charlie Brown. Lights, please.
Yeah.
And there they were, shepherds abiding in the fields, keeping flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord appeared and said, I bring you tidings of great joy, for unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't have that memorized. I'm just paraphrasing.
Yeah, I know.
You got the idea. But the point is that Schultz put that in the cartoon. That wound up being his #1 cartoon?
Yep.
In fact, when they first, according to the documentary, when they first introduced that cartoon with that biblical account, it was #1. So I just think that's pretty cool. So we got about 3 or 4 minutes left. Any final words you want to say?
Oh, a surreal joke. There were these 2 washing machines. I've told this one, and they saw a hat in their way. One said to the other, is that in your way? And the other said, no, it's in your way, and it's blocking my view. Ha ha ha.
And on that note, I am Asaph Adonai, and I like the topics we talked about.
I did.
They were fun.
Yeah.
Airport.
Airplane, yeah. Airplane.
Sorry, airplane.
That's all right.
I keep saying airport because there's a serious movie called Airport.
Oh, there was, huh?
Yeah. Airplane, the comedy, and my top 10, and stuff like that. Donald Trump's victory.
Yeah.
And Time Tunnel. I'm just really getting a kick out of watching Time Tunnel.
Yeah.
It's just so fun. I feel blessed having you here and doing this. Just having fun. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is Asaph Cafe, and the premise of this show, every week I invite a guest, and they talk to me as I play the piano. So, while I left, affectionately, our aging rocker, Emmett. And thanks for being part of this today. Thanks for some of the secret ingredients. I'll probably have some more when we sign off.
Yep,
here.
Definitely.
And I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, definitely.
And if I get that job with ABC, I'll let you know.
Thanks.
I'll let you know. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Until our next show, Maranatha. I always freeze on that chord.
Yep.
I do that on Scott's show, too.
Yep.
Freeze on that.
Yep.
So, like I said, I got prayers going up to heaven that God will give me that job with ABC. So we'll see.
Yep.
Make yourself at home and I'll sign us off.
All right.